Welcome to the Mixed Media Tapes. I'm your host, Philip J. Mellon. The Mixed Media Tapes is a short artist talk series based on word and phrase prompts. I have invited visual artists to select prompts from a list and share their thoughts and stories based on those prompts. In this recording, Judith Farr talks about alchemy as it relates to the possibilities in art making and studio life. Listen in.
Yeah, I don't know though, but there's some really gunky paintings around that are just amazing, you know. There's and that's like how I can see the connection between that alchemical process. It's like the gold, you know, at the end, or the magic or whatever. I feel like it makes the whole process really exciting. To imagine myself being an alchemist, you know, like in some sort of, I don't know, dark medieval hut or something. I don't know, it just sounds, I guess it's sort of a way for me to romanticize what I'm doing. Although I don't think my work looks like it comes out of a medieval hovel or anything, but...
Artist Judith Farr talks about the parallels between painting and alchemy.
Okay, so my studio is in the town of Lleida in Spain. It came about that I started my MFA last year, and I was having a problem because I was one of the only abstract painters on the cohort. And everybody else was doing conceptual things. And that wasn't a problem, except that when we did group crits, everything was sort of about conceptual art, and they were sort of giving me crits about my work sort of in a conceptual vein rather than in a painterly vein, you know. And I was just sort of like getting a bit frustrated because I was like, it's for me it's a totally different process. You know, I don't have an idea and then make something. I make something and then I have ideas about what I've made, you know. And so anyway, so I was talking to my tutor about it, and she suggested I read this book called, which I have here in front of me, called What Painting Is by James Elkins. And it's one of the only books I've ever found that is really about what it means to paint, rather than about the context of painting or the history of painting. And it's kind of essential reading for painters, I think, really, because it's the only book that, well, I don't know if it's the only book, but it's the only book that I've read that actually addresses what it is we're actually doing. You know, like what we're making, how we're making, and not just what we're thinking or where we live or what time in history we live in or whatever. So in his book he talks about he compares the act of painting to alchemy. What I got from it was that I don't know, it's very intuitive. Like alchemy is like a sort of like a dead science. It's like sort of medieval science. So it was like unlike modern science where everything is sort of listed and it's, you know, it's like very strict process. Alchemy is like more intuitive, and it's like, what does this smell like? Does this smell right? Or what's the, you know, what are the textures? And, you know, like they had to invent their own names for things. They've got like loads of names for different kinds of water vapor, or like, you know, just, I don't know, kind of like all the different substances and chemicals and things. And okay, so it just gave me a whole other understanding of what it means to paint, you know. I think I had my own feelings about what it meant to paint, but I didn't have words for that, or I didn't have like a kind of a mental picture for what it was I was doing when I was, putting paint on canvas or on paper. And I don't know, it just it made me feel like I don't have to control this process. Like it can be an intuitive process that is all about combining substances, which is, combining paint and water. Or I guess that's really why reading about alchemy and painting, I don't know, it had kind of helped me to understand that, that about the importance of just trying things out and not really knowing, like not knowing what the result is going to be. Like you're trying for gold, obviously, but 9 times out of 10 that isn't going to happen. Like he in his book he talks about different painters and how they used materials in the wrong ways. So they'd use materials that you can't really mix together, like sand or like bits of grit or mud or whatever, and that would create like a really crumbly surface on their work that was actually really interesting, even though it kind of shouldn't work. I don't know, like if they'd have been reading about using materials in an art manual and, like a painting manual, and they'd done it according to the book, they wouldn't have created this really interesting textured surface. And I thought, okay, so now I'm allowed to do whatever I want. It's given me permission to just play, really. So I feel like that's what I've been thinking about as I work since reading that, and probably a lot more this summer because I've been doing quite a lot of painting. It's been sort of going through my mind because I've been using mixed media. I've been using spray paint and acrylics and some paint marker and things like that,
and perhaps the essence of alchemy, which is time.
Is that time is sort of essential to the whole process, and I don't think, maybe it's not about, I don't know, it feels like we feel like we should understand everything straight away, and that's some sort of reflection on who we are, or, how clever we are or something. But I think, for me, like I needed a long time before I could become an abstract painter.
And experimentation.
There's a problem here. I feel like I can't move forward, so I just have to do something. I have to, make a commitment to do something radical to this piece of work and see what happens. And then something happens, and sometimes it's amazing, and you make gold. And other times it's time to start again, or time to go back to square one.